The smell of fresh paint and new beginnings clung to the air in our nearly finished house. It was a house we designed from the ground up, a testament to a future I believed was written in stone. Every beam, every window frame, was a symbol of my commitment to Chloe. We'd spent weekends picking out tile for the master bathroom, arguing playfully over the shade of blue for the kitchen island, and dreaming of the children who would one day run down its hallways. Our wedding was 6 months away, the invitations already printed, sitting in a neat box on the dining table we'd bought together. I was on a ladder, touching up a spot on the ceiling, when she walked in. She didn't have her usual bright smile, the one that had captivated me on our first date. Instead, her face was a mask of strained sincerity. "Liam, can we talk?" she asked, her voice unusually quiet. I climbed down, a sense of unease coiling in my stomach. "Of course. Is everything okay?" She wrung her hands, avoiding my eyes. "It's about us. And the wedding." She finally looked at me, and her eyes were filled with a confusing mix of guilt and determination. "I need to ask you for something. And I need you to try to understand." I waited, my heart starting to beat a little faster. "Okay." "Mark reached out to me," she said, naming the ex-boyfriend she had always described as a passionate but destructive chapter of her past. "He's back in town. He said he made a mistake letting me go." A cold wave washed over me. I kept my voice steady. "And? He's your past, Chloe. We are your future." I know, she said quickly, stepping closer. "And I want that future with you more than anything. But this is a loose end. Oh, what if that has always been in the back of my mind? Before I commit my entire life to you, I need to be 100% sure. I need to know that I'm not making a mistake, that I'm choosing you without any doubts." The words were coming, but my brain was struggling to process the implication. "What are you asking for, Chloe?" She took a deep breath. "I need a break. Just a few weeks. To see him. To talk to him. To get closure. So that when I walk down that aisle, I can do it with a completely clear heart, knowing without a shadow of a doubt that you are the one." Silence filled the room, thick and suffocating. The smell of fresh paint now seemed nauseating. A break. To explore her ex. The request was so fundamentally disrespectful to everything we had built that I felt a strange, cold calm descend upon me. There was no anger, no shouting. Just a sudden, chilling clarity. I looked around the room, at the walls we were supposed to fill with photos, at the space where our sofa would go. This wasn't a house anymore, it was a stage set for a play I had no intention of starring in. "No," I said, my voice flat. Chloe looked shocked. "No?" "Liam, please just listen." "I heard what you said," I interrupted, my gaze locking onto hers. "And my answer is no. You don't get a break from a commitment. You don't put our future on pause so you can audition your past." I picked up a stray piece of sandpaper from the floor, turning it over in my hand. "A relationship, an engagement, is built on the choice we make every day to be with each other. You're asking for permission to unchoose me, even temporarily, to see if a different option is better." Tears welled in her eyes. "It's not like that. I love you. This is to make us stronger." "Stronger?" I let out a short, bitter laugh. "Chloe, what you are asking for is the end. You're just asking me to wait politely in the wings while you see if the other lead actor is still available. I will not be your backup plan. I will not be your safety net." I walked over to the box of wedding invitations on the table. I picked one up, a beautiful card with our names written in elegant script. "This," I said, holding it up, "is a promise. It's not a suggestion. It's not an option pending further review." Her face crumpled. "Liam, please don't do this." "I'm not doing anything," I said, my voice hardening with a finality that surprised even myself. "You did. You've made your choice. You chose uncertainty over me. So go. Go explore your what if. Get your closure." I dropped the invitation back into the box. But when you're done, don't come back here. Because I won't be waiting. As of this moment, the engagement is off. The first 24 hours were a blur of methodical, emotionless action. It was the only way I could function. While Chloe was likely beginning her break with Mark, I was initiating a full system shutdown of the life we had planned. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I simply executed. My first call was to Sarah, our real estate agent who had helped us find the plot of land. Her voice was cheerful when she answered. Liam. How's the dream house coming along? Sarah, it's Liam, I said, my tone devoid of any warmth. Circumstances have changed. I need to sell the house. Immediately. There was a stunned silence on the other end. Sell it? But you haven't even moved in. Is Chloe okay with this? Chloe is no longer part of the equation, I stated. The property is in my name. I want it on the market by the end of the week. Price it to sell, not to sit. Sarah, a consummate professional, shifted gears instantly. Okay, Liam. I understand. I'll draw up the paperwork. My next task was harder. I drove to the house, my house now, and began to pack. I didn't pack memories, I packed objects. The set of expensive knives she'd insisted on. The ridiculous live, laugh, love sign she'd bought for the entryway. I created a Chloe pile and a Liam pile. My pile was surprisingly small. So much of what had filled the space was about us, a concept that now felt like a foreign word. Her text started that evening. Chloe, Liam, you can't be serious. Let's talk tomorrow when you've cooled down. I didn't reply. The next morning, another message. Chloe, I'm really worried. Please just answer me. I'm at my mom's. I thought we were just taking a little space. Space. She still didn't get it. She thought this was a negotiation, a lover's quarrel. She failed to understand that she had detonated a bomb at the very foundation of my trust, and I was now simply clearing the rubble. By midday, the for sale sign was hammered into the front lawn. It was a stark, brutal statement. A friend of mine who lived down the street sent me a picture of it with a single text, "Dude?" That picture must have made its way to Chloe, because my phone immediately began to ring. I let it go to voicemail. She called again. And again. Finally, a string of frantic texts appeared. Chloe, a for sale sign? What are you doing? Chloe, Liam, this is our home. You can't just sell it. Chloe, pick up the phone. This is insane. You're scaring me. I looked at the messages, feeling a distant, detached sense of pity for her. She wasn't scared for us. She was scared of the consequences of her own actions. She had wanted to have her cake and eat it too, and was now horrified to find that I had simply thrown the cake away. That evening, I arranged for a moving company to take her things to her mother's address. I packed the last box, which contained the wedding invitations. On top, I placed the engagement ring. It was a beautiful, custom-designed piece that I had spent months saving for. It felt like a meaningless piece of carbon and metal now. I finally decided to grant her one final piece of communication. Not a call, not a text debate. Just a clean, sharp cut. I sent her an email with the subject line, "Arrangements." The body was short and to the point. Chloe. Your belongings will be delivered to your mother's address tomorrow afternoon. The engagement is terminated. The house is on the market, as it is my sole property. I have deposited your share of the wedding-related expenses we split back into your bank account. Please cancel the vendors that were in your name. This is the last time you will hear from me. I meant what I said. I will not be your backup plan. I hope you find the closure you're looking for. Liam. I hit send and immediately blocked her number, her email, and all her social media profiles. I severed every digital tie that connected us. It was a quiet, anticlimactic act for such a life-altering decision. I sat in my nearly empty apartment, a temporary rental, and felt the first true pang of grief. It wasn't for her, not really. It was for the man I used to be, the happy, trusting man who believed in forevers and had smelled fresh paint as the scent of his future. That man was gone, and I had no idea who was going to take his place. The house sold in 9 days. In the current market, a brand new, thoughtfully designed home price to move was like a flare in the night sky. The closing was quick and impersonal, a series of signatures that officially turned my dreams into a substantial wire transfer to my bank account. It was a hollow victory. With the house gone, the final anchor holding me to my old life was lifted. I looked at the life I had built, a good job in finance, a comfortable apartment, a circle of friends who were mostly couple friends. It all felt like a costume I was wearing. None of it felt essential. So, I began to dismantle the rest. My resignation was met with shock. "But you're on the partner track, Liam," my boss, David, exclaimed. "Is this about Chloe? I heard you two split. Don't make a rash decision." "The most rational decision I've ever made," I replied, handing him my formal letter. I worked out my 2 weeks, transferring my projects with a detached efficiency that unnerved my colleagues. I was a ghost at my own farewell party, smiling politely and shaking hands, feeling completely disconnected from the person they were describing in their speeches. Next, I sold my car. I sold my furniture. I methodically purged my possessions until everything I owned fit into 2 suitcases and a backpack. I kept a few books, some practical clothes, and a single, small photograph of my parents. Nothing from my life with Chloe remained. My friends tried to intervene. "Where are you going?" my best friend, Ben, asked, cornering me after a packing session. "You can't just disappear. Talk to us, man. Let us help you." "I appreciate it, Ben. More than you know," I told him honestly. "But this isn't something I can be helped with. This is something I have to do on my own. I need to get away from everything that reminds me of who I was." He didn't understand, but he saw the resolve in my eyes and relented. "Just keep in touch, okay? Don't fall off the face of the earth." I promised I would, knowing it was a lie. The final step was the most liberating. I walked into my bank and closed my accounts, transferring the bulk of my funds to an international bank. I bought a one-way ticket to Lisbon, Portugal. I didn't speak Portuguese. I knew no one there. It was perfect. It was a blank slate. On the day of my flight, I woke up before dawn. I took a taxi to the airport, the city lights blurring past the window. These were the streets where Chloe and I had walked, the skyline we had admired. They no longer held any charm, only the faint echo of a life that wasn't mine. As I sat in the departure lounge, I turned on an old burner phone I had bought. Out of a morbid curiosity, I unblocked one of Chloe's old email addresses. There were dozens of messages. They had transformed from panic and anger to pleading and remorse. "Liam, please. I made a mistake. A terrible, terrible mistake. It was nothing. A ghost. I was an idiot. I chose you, I'll always choose you. Please just talk to me." Another one, dated a week later. I went by the house. The new owners were moving in. A family with a little girl. They were so happy. "It broke me, Liam. That was supposed to be us. I'm so sorry." The words didn't stir anger or satisfaction. They stirred nothing. It was like reading about characters in a book I'd finished long ago. Her realization had come too late. The damage wasn't the affair she might or might not have had, the damage was the request itself. The willingness to risk our entire future for a moment of selfish curiosity. I deleted the emails without replying, turned the burner phone off, and snapped the SIM card in half, dropping the pieces into a trash can. As the plane took off, I watched my city shrink below until it was just a grid of lights. I wasn't running away from Chloe. I was running toward silence. Toward a place where I could sit with the wreckage and figure out what, if anything, could be rebuilt. I was disappearing, not out of spite, but out of a desperate need for self-preservation. I was now Liam, the ghost. And ghosts don't have a past. 18 months passed. Time, distance, and the rhythmic crash of the Atlantic Ocean are powerful healers. I had settled in a small fishing town called Ericeira, an hour outside of Lisbon. It was a world away from the corporate hustle I had left behind. My life was simple, and that simplicity was its own kind of medicine. I rented a small, whitewashed apartment overlooking the sea. I didn't dive back into finance, the thought was repulsive. Instead, I took a job bartending at a local surf lodge. The work was physical, the conversations were superficial, and it paid enough to cover my rent and my groceries. For the first time in my life, I wasn't chasing a goal. I was just living. My Portuguese was clumsy but functional. I made a few friends, fellow expatriates and locals who didn't ask about my past. To them, I was just Liam, the quiet American bartender who was surprisingly good at making an old-fashioned and who spent his mornings walking the rugged coastline. The ghost had found a peaceful haunting ground. I was no longer numb. I was content. The sharp edges of my grief had been worn smooth by the tide. I thought I had successfully erased every trace of my old life. But the digital world has a long memory. One evening, I was clearing tables after a busy night when my phone buzzed. It was a message request on a social media platform I rarely used and had forgotten to delete. The name made my heart stop for a beat, Ben. My old best friend. My first instinct was to delete it, to preserve the sanctity of my new world. But curiosity, a feeling I hadn't felt in a long time, got the better of me. I opened the message. Liam. Man, I don't know if you'll ever see this. It took me over a year to find this account. We were all so worried. Your parents were beside themselves until you sent them that single postcard saying you were safe. Listen, I'm not writing to drag you back. I'm writing because Chloe came to see me. She's a wreck, man. Has been ever since you left. Apparently, the whole thing with Mark imploded in less than a week. He wasn't the romantic hero she'd built up in her head, he was the same selfish guy she'd left years ago. She's been in therapy. She's different. She's not asking for you back. She just wants to talk to you. To apologize. She says she can't move on until she tells you herself how sorry she is. She gave me her number to give to you. It's up to you what you do with it. No pressure. Just glad to know you're alive. He listed a phone number. I sank onto a bar stool, the noisy chatter of the lodge fading into a dull roar. Chloe. The name was an echo from another lifetime. For 18 months, she had been a phantom, a memory I had successfully buried. Now, with a few lines of text, the ghost of my past was standing right beside the ghost I had become. I was torn. A part of me, the part that had built these new, peaceful walls, screamed to ignore it. What good could come from reopening that wound? But another part, a quieter, more mature part, recognized the truth in Ben's message. Maybe closure wasn't just for her. Maybe I needed it too. My entire departure had been an act of severance, a brutal, one-sided cutting of ties. I had never allowed for a final conversation. I had just vanished. I thought about the man I was now. He was calmer, more deliberate. He wasn't the wounded, reactive man who had sold a house out of cold fury. He was a man who could face an uncomfortable truth without shattering. I spent the night staring out at the dark, churning ocean. She wasn't asking for me back. She was asking for 5 minutes of my time to clear her conscience. Could I give her that? Could I give myself that? At dawn, having not slept, I made a decision. I wouldn't call her. I wouldn't open the door to a long, messy conversation. But I would offer a final, definitive end. I typed a short, simple email to Ben. Ben, thanks for reaching out. Good to hear from you. I'm okay. Tell her I'll agree to one video call. She can send me a link and a time. After that, the door closes for good. This is for final closure, nothing more. I hit send. As the sun rose over the Atlantic, I felt a sense of trepidation, but also a sense of rightness. It was time to face the ghost of my past, so that my own ghost could finally be free. 2 days later, a calendar invitation appeared in my inbox. Catch up, the title read. The sender was Chloe. My stomach tightened, but I accepted. The call was scheduled for Saturday evening, which was Saturday morning for her. An ocean and a lifetime away. When the time came, I sat at my small kitchen table, the window open to the sounds of the evening in Ericeira. I clicked the link. Her face flickered onto the screen. It was her, but it wasn't. The vibrant, confident woman I had known was gone. She looked tired. There were lines around her eyes that hadn't been there before. She was in a simple apartment, not the lavish world I imagined she might have built. When she saw me, her breath hitched. "Liam," she whispered. "You look good. Healthy." "I am," I said, my voice even. "You wanted to talk." She nodded, gathering herself. "Thank you for this. It means more than you know." She took a shaky breath. "There's no excuse for what I did." "None. I was selfish, I was immature, and I was a coward. I had this romanticized fantasy of Mark, this what if, and instead of being an adult and dismissing it, I threw away the most wonderful thing in my life to chase a ghost." She continued, her words tumbling out in a raw, honest confession. The break had lasted 4 days. It was a disaster of arguments and mismatched expectations. She realized almost immediately that she had made the most catastrophic mistake of her life. By the time she had tried to crawl back, I was already gone. "I deserved it," she said, tears streaming down her face now. "I deserved the silence. I deserved the sold house. I deserved every single bit of it. I shattered your trust, and I broke the heart of the one person who ever truly loved me. And I have to live with that every day. I'm so sorry, Liam. For everything." I listened without interruption. The old Liam would have felt a surge of vindictive satisfaction. The new Liam felt only a profound sense of sadness for the both of us, for the beautiful thing we had destroyed. "I hear you, Chloe," I said when she finished. "And I believe you're sorry." A flicker of hope ignited in her eyes, a desperate, painful thing to watch. "I've changed, Liam. I've worked so hard on myself. I know I don't deserve it, but I have to ask, is there any part of you that could ever?" I held up a hand gently, stopping her. "No." The word was not angry or bitter. It was calm, factual, and final. The hope in her eyes died, replaced by a pained acceptance. "I forgive you, Chloe," I continued, and I was surprised to find that I meant it. "I have to. Holding on to that anger was like an anchor, and I've spent the last 18 months learning to cut it loose. But forgiveness and reconciliation are two very different things." I leaned back in my chair, glancing out my window at the twilight sky. "The man you were engaged to, he doesn't exist anymore. You broke him, and he had to be rebuilt from scratch. The man I am now lives a different life, in a different world. He values his peace above all else. He values the trust he has in himself. And he knows that trust could never be fully given to you again. The foundation is gone. We can't build a house on sand." She was sobbing quietly, but she was nodding, as if she knew this was the only possible answer. "I truly hope you find happiness, Chloe," I said, and this too was the truth. "You deserve to heal and move on. And I hope you can forgive yourself. But our story is over. Its final chapter was written the day you asked for a break." "I understand," she choked out. "Thank you for giving me this, Liam. Thank you for your forgiveness. Goodbye, Chloe." "Goodbye, Liam." I ended the call. The screen went blank. I sat there for a long moment, the silence of my apartment wrapping around me. There was no elation, no lingering anger. There was only peace. A deep, quiet, and complete peace. The last ghost had been faced. The last echo had faded. I stood up, walked to my small balcony, and breathed in the salty Atlantic air. The sun had set, leaving a soft purple glow on the horizon. My past was finally where it belonged, behind me. My future was an unknown, unwritten expanse, just like the ocean in front of me. And for the first time since that day in the half-painted house, I wasn't afraid. I was free.